Welcome to Hope Church Online. I'm Matt Sturdevant, the lead pastor of Hope Church. Thank you for joining us for this week's message. Today we're continuing our series, Blindsided, Didn't See That Coming, where we've been taking a look at these different challenges that every single one of us deal with in life, but yet we don't expect them. Hence, we're blindsided by them. Already in the series, we've looked at things like cynicism, disconnection, pride, emptiness. Last week, we talked about burnout. If you're watching this on the day of its release, today is Mother's Day. So happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there. Obviously, I am not a mother, but there are so many ways to be blindsided when it comes to motherhood. And today, we're going to have some fun. We're going to have a conversation with some moms from Hope Church. And these aren't just any moms. These are some specific moms. And sitting down with me is my wife, Jessica Sturdevant, Glenda Cropp, who is Pastor Brian's wife, and then Rhonda Gayle, who is our director of kids ministry. So today we're going to be talking about motherhood and things that blindside you when it comes to motherhood. Before we really get into anything, though, I want you to just take a moment and tell us a little bit more about yourself. And we'll start with you, Rhonda.
Okay, so I'm Rhonda, and I've been coming to Hope since 1990, actually. And I met my husband here, and we got married in 1994. And when I married him, he had 2 children. Then a couple of years later, we had Rachel, and 15 months after that, we had twins. So I really like to say that I went from being a single woman to being a wife with 5 kids and a dog by the time in 5 years. And so that's just kind of a fun thing about me. And then now, 27 years later, I also have 3 beautiful granddaughters, a grandchild on the way, and I've acquired 4 wonderful in-laws. So we're very, very blessed in that. I came on staff in 2006 as the kids director, and have just really enjoyed my time here at Hope.
Great. Glenda, how about you?
Yeah, I am married to Brian, and we've been married almost 20 years this summer. And we've been around Hope that same amount of time. And I serve in the arts ministry. And we have 4 kids, 2 girls and 2 boys. And I had my first daughter, Lindy, about 7 years into marriage. And then it was a 5-year gap before we had Savannah. And then 2 years. And then Casey in 11 months. And then Micah. So, yeah.
Well, Jessica, I know your story, but I'll let you tell it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, met my husband in California. I actually grew up at Hope and moved out to California for school and finished college. And a few months later, we got married. And so we have been married about 19 and a half years now, and moved to Fort Worth quickly after that. And we thought we would wait a couple years before we had kids because we were so excited to be married and begin careers. And a couple of years in, we thought, well, now's a good time to start having kids. And it turned out 14 years later, we finally had kids. We had to wait a long time before God gave us kids. And so our daughter is 5 years old, and we have a son who's 3 years old. And I serve at Hope working with Antioch Project, which is our vocational ministry training program.
So when it comes to motherhood, I think it goes without saying that there are some things that you were probably blindsided by, right? Some things you didn't see coming, both challenges, but then also really good things, because we don't always see all of the great things that happen in our life. So I want to talk for a few minutes about some of the things that blindsided you. Let's start with the challenges, and then we'll end on the really great things.
Go for it. All right. I would say the thing that first blindsided me about motherhood was infertility. I had no idea that we wouldn't have kids pretty quickly. And that was a long and very difficult journey. I still remember my first Mother's Day after we had Kinsey. It was still a really hard time for me because of the long journey of walking with the Lord and trying to trust him and follow him and still not having what I wanted. And I think some of the things the Lord taught me through the journey of, 14 years of marriage and no kids was about comparison, because it's really easy to look at other people and what they have, what God was giving them, and ask why. Why not me? What's wrong with me? Doesn't God love me? And to compare with their situation. And one of the things I think that the Lord worked on in my heart during that time was that he loved me and he was with me no matter what my circumstances looked like. And I couldn't use my circumstances to compare to others and determine how much he loved me. And then another thing he worked on was just cynicism, like we talked about in the blindsided series, of thinking, well, gosh, if it's hard right now, the rest of life is just going to be hard, and this is going to be a hard thing. And it really turned out over 14 years that the Lord brought a lot of joy, even in the midst of not having some things I wanted. Well, God worked on all of that in my heart in the journey of infertility. But then when he gave kids, lo and behold, I had to deal with comparison again and comparing to other moms and how competent they seemed. And I was struggling with my own incompetencies and deal with cynicism whenever my kids were not sleeping. And you know that.
Yes, I do.
I've just, oh my goodness, it's always going to be this way. I'm always going to feel this tired. And having to say, you know what, I've worked on these things with the Lord, but here's another level. I've got to deal with it in my heart of trusting God and of looking to his love for me and walking the journey with him, not comparing and not blowing out what the future will be in a picture without him, but trusting he's going to be in the midst of this with me as we walk forward. I was blindsided by how little sleep there was. I knew there wouldn't be a lot of sleep, but the lack of sleep and the toll it takes is real. And then I think the last thing I would say I was blindsided by in the challenges was just how much I needed God every day, every hour. And I mean, there were a lot of car trips to go get coffee with two very little kids in the car and me just praying out loud and asking God for help in the day because I was so tired and feeling really empty and needing to be a mom and step up and do it as an old mom. And so I think some of those things were, although they were things I had faced before, they were new challenges in a new way, just a new way God was working on them in my heart as a mom.
So you're saying there are these things that you have to deal with, you have to work on in life, and then they sort of come back around again, maybe even amplified in being a mom. But each of us have things we have to work on regardless.
Yeah, I agree. And I think in walking through it with infertility, I thought, oh, if I just deal with this, then I don't have to, if I kind of get over it, then I won't have to deal with it again. Turns out I've had to deal with it as a mom. And I expect if, we keep moving forward in life and our kids get older and older, I bet I'm going to have to deal with the same things at other stages, which you guys who have older kids could probably speak to, just things God's working on in my heart that I have to continually kind of come back around to and work on again some more.
Mm-hmm. Glenda, Rhonda, what about you? Sort of challenges that blindsided you?
I think for me, one of the biggest challenges has been related to fear and insecurity. I think I have struggled with fear and insecurity in the past, but I feel like having children has really ramped that up in terms of like worrying about their safety or worrying about just things that they do, like, will they be safe when they do this, or you shouldn't do that thing. So I don't know. I just tend to be a little more high strung when it comes to feeling like everyone's in imminent danger. And so knowing how to handle that well and trusting the Lord. But then also, it's kind of like what you were saying with comparison, but I think just the idea that I want to do everything really, really well. And I think as a lot of times as a mom, I've just felt a lot of feelings of like I'm failing, or I'm not doing a good job, or I'm not doing the best things that I want to be, or I see maybe what my kids are doing and I think I wish they could do something better. And so just judging a lot of my own worth and really struggling with feeling like I'm doing everything wrong. And so in the context of that, I've had to go to the Lord and just ask him for help in terms of like what is the realistic picture and what is realistically doable. And then, I mean, friends have really helped with that too. Talking to people like Rhonda, I've talked to her just about, this is what I'm seeing and this is how I'm feeling about this, and I'm feeling like a failure, and her helping me gain a more accurate perspective, and then learning to trust the Lord in that. But just feeling like, like you were saying too, just feeling like everybody else is doing such a great job and I'm doing such a terrible job. And then just, having to really turn it back to, I just really need to be faithful with what the Lord has given me to do today, and not listen to all the voices, but choose to keep pressing forward, doing what's right.
Yeah, and just hearing each of you talk about your comparison and fear. So I would say, in addition to those challenges, which I also have experienced all along the way at the different stages of things, one of the very first things we had to learn was just the fact that our twins that were born 3 months early, they had to spend their first 9 weeks in the hospital, and really learning how open-handed you have to live as a parent if you're going to trust the Lord with your kids. And that has been a lesson that has been very valuable to me, but it started with a challenge when they were in the hospital, and just really being literally on our knees, saying, God, these are your children, and do with them as you will. And from that point, just coming to that conclusion when they're 13 and when they're 18 and when they're 21 and so forth, just every step of the way. Another challenge that kind of blindsided me was I guess I always imagined that my husband and I would be on the exact same page in every discipline situation, that he and I would totally agree on how to handle, a certain situation. And so that was definitely something that blindsided me. And then the lessons of learning to follow his leadership and to trust the Lord to work through him to correct our kids was really invaluable. And I could go on and on about all the ways that I learned that lesson over the years. But that was a big challenge that I did not see coming. And then I would say a third one that I've experienced more in the later years of having adult children is, and that I didn't see it coming, was the guilt. You start thinking about, I know so much more now than I did then, and I could have done a lot better job, and just starting to kind of pile on the guilt. And, I may see something that they're struggling with, and I take ownership of that, and I think it was my fault that they are having trouble in this world. So just that was a surprise to me as well.
So to have challenges as being a mom, that's really to be normal. So anybody who's watching or listening to the audio version, and if they have challenges, like, they're normal, right?
Yes.
Like, you understand it. And then there's similar themes that you've shared, especially this comparison, I'm not good enough, thinking that I'm not good enough or I'm not doing enough, has to do with what are we measuring the standard against. And it's something that every one of us deals with, and you kind of, you don't know it until you actually see it, which is why you're blindsided by it, which is why we're talking about it. Now, life's not only full of challenges, though. Being a parent, and I know being a dad, but there are wonderful things about being a parent. So what are some of the wonderful things that you were blindsided by when in being a mom, things that you didn't see those coming, you didn't expect for that to be something so wonderful or enjoyable?
I think one thing that stands out to me, even though I can be pretty emotional, I didn't expect to tear up when I heard Lindy's heartbeat for the first time. That was a really sweet moment, and just we didn't know originally that we were pregnant until I had gone to the emergency room thinking I was having a heart attack. So and they came in and told us, hey, you're having a baby. And I was like, oh. So it was pretty exciting. But then to actually walk through that experience and then get to the first doctor's appointment and hear her heartbeat on the sonogram was very emotional because it didn't seem very real, even though they had told me that until I heard her heartbeat. And so that's one thing that I really remember. And then I think just another thing is just, all the handholds and the snuggles and the kisses and the really sweet things that your kids do. And just the time that you get to spend together has been another thing that's been really sweet. And I didn't realize, I think, how much I would really love those things and really just cherish them.
That makes me think, the moment that one of the most wonderful things is the moment when you realize your lack of sleep has been caused by the fact that you stayed up late talking to your either adult child or maybe even a 9-year-old child who's able to actually have an intelligent conversation about something that really means a lot to them. And you realize I've become friends with these little people, and they have now, in my situation, grown up to become really delightful adults to be around, and what a joy it is to walk through life. So that would be my most wonderful thing. And then there's grandkids, which are the best.
I would say, when we had Kinsey, we didn't know if God would give us more kids or not. And so then having Kai and them being so close in age, I'm pretty far apart in age from my siblings. That's been really fun, is watching them love each other and be kind to each other. Like the choices they make to be kind to each other and show each other love. Like that just fills my heart more than I had any idea it ever would. And then I really enjoy just the funny things they say or do. I had no idea it would be so funny. Some things are funny afterwards. Some things are funny in the moment. And I just didn't know how funny it would be. And then I think too, watching God grow their hearts. So like them wanting to show love back. Like when my sons picked me a wildflower and brought it to me, I'm just like, oh my goodness, I had no idea that would mean so much. Or when my daughters tried to use her words and encourage me, like she really appreciates something I've done. Like seeing the budding in their hearts of them wanting to communicate love or appreciation, or then when they think of other people, how to be kind to others. Just, I think, watching the Lord work in their hearts and grow. On one hand, I knew that would be great, but I think I just didn't know the depth of joy I would have as they learn to walk with the Lord and to love the things that God loves. And just I don't know, that's a deep joy. There's fun stuff, but that's like a really deep joy, something I'm super grateful to the Lord to get to experience. So,
last week in our series, we talked about being blindsided by burnout. And one of the points that I shared was that life is God's training program for us. Just the life that we're living and the things that are on our plate. We each have a plate. There's different things on it, but whatever's on it, that's what God's using to train us in at this particular moment. So being women, being followers of Jesus, wives, mothers, what are some things that God has taught you or is teaching you right now as you journey forward with Jesus?
I think something that stands out to me is just the idea that my hope really has to be in the Lord. I want to fix things myself and take care of my problems. But over and over again, I've just come to situations where I really need God's help. And I don't have any more tools in the tool belt. And so I've had situations with the kids, one of my kids in particular, where I was really struggling with that kid. And we were just fighting or just having trouble communicating. And it was very stressful. And finally, I just started praying out loud. I'm just like, Lord, please help, because I don't know what to do. And he looked at me and he says, Mama, what are you doing? I said, I'm praying. And he goes, why are you praying? I said, because I don't know what to do, buddy. And when I don't know what to do, I just need to pray and ask the Lord for help. And I really felt like God helped us in those next moments. But there have been so many times when I want to know what to do and I want to know what the answer is. And I really don't. And so God has really come through, but he's helped me to see too that I can't just depend on myself. I can't just hash it out on my own. I really need to ask him for help and do things his way.
I would say something similar. When I became a mom, I think because I was so much older starting that, I was coming from a place where I felt a lot of competency. I felt very competent in what I did in my work, competent in managing life. And becoming a mom, I suddenly felt very incompetent. I heard Glenda describe it. She talked about becoming a mom is like going back to junior high and the first days of that and how awkward you feel and how hard it is to figure everything out. And I think for me, one of the things the Lord has been teaching me, and that now that Kenzie's 5 or 5.5, is just how he will use my weaknesses and my inadequacies, my failures, my lack. I can't pardon and excuse and not learn or not deal with sin, but he will use where I come short to actually work in my kids' lives. I can think of specific times where the Lord took where I was lacking and used it to actually help my kids grow in something, or just the repetition over time of prayer, because I don't know what to do. And Lord, I need help. I need help. I need energy. I need insight. I need something. But I'm praying out loud in front of my kids. And then they begin to learn and they start praying and asking God for help. So I think that's one of the big things. I still will forget it and realize, okay, I'm focusing a whole lot on my lack here instead of focusing on God and how he will meet me there and actually do good to my kids through how he helps and how he moves us forward. But I'd say for me, that's been a process of learning that and seeing God come through over the last several years. And it's a place where I'm still trying to remember and move forward with the Lord.
Yeah, I think big lesson learned over time was just the fact that there are no formulas to good parenting and there are no guarantees. And so knowing that, and also knowing that God's way is the best way, just really committing myself to do my best at the job that God has given me, knowing that I'm going to fail, and not trying to adopt the methodologies of parents that I see that it's working. I may get some ideas from them, but I am not that person. Their family dynamic is not my family dynamic. And what works in their situation may not work in my situation. But the principle that the goal they're shooting for is very much doable. And so I have tried to adopt principles along the way and then inquire about methods to try to adapt and see what would work in our situation, and that kind of thing. And that has served me well over the years.
One thing I would add to that, because I know from talking together, that's something that's important to all of us, is just community.
Yes.
And I think that's a place of challenge and of a blindsided good thing, is just the need that I have for friends and relationships, not just because you can feel alone or isolated sometimes as a mom, but also because I need people praying for me. And I'm so grateful. Because I didn't know just how much I would need that. It's something I'm super grateful for. Just the community here at Hope of women and friends to walk through life with and to be able to ask to pray for me when I'm struggling.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, and can I just say, my experience has been so much of what you have just said. There is a group of ladies at Hope Church right now that we have walked through literally every stage, from being single to being married and grandchildren, and all the things in between. And we've walked that road together. Sometimes we've been in the same small group together, and other times we've just been around and we'll go to lunch or whatever. But there's just nothing that can compare with those people who have been in it for the long haul. And I think that's one of the values of sticking with a community, a group of people for the long haul, is you get to this stage in life and you can look back and see that you've got a running pack. You've got people who are running right there with you.
So kind of along those lines, you all are highly invested, highly involved. You've been leading at Hope for a number of years. You interact with a lot of different ladies. If you could kind of have like a final word of encouragement for the moms on Mother's Day and the women on Mother's Day, what would each of you like to say to the ladies out there?
I would say you are really treasured and loved by the Lord. On your hardest, worst days, the Lord knows He cares and He loves you. And there are people here who, if you don't have a group like Rhonda was just talking about, to run with and do life with and encourage you, there are people who'd love to be a friend. You need friends as a mom, and people who will call you forward and encourage you. And I would also say, if someone's struggling with infertility like we did, Mother's Day was a hard day for me for a lot of years. Just the Lord knows He loves you, He cares, and all those years, or maybe it's months or whatever it is that He has for you, they will not be wasted. It will be worth it to see what the Lord does in and through your life if you choose to go ahead and run with the path He has for you.
I think I would just say, keep doing the next right thing. I mean, what you're saying is really important. If you keep walking with the Lord, you can look back over time and see how He's been faithful. And even if you can't, sometimes other people in your life can look back and say, this is how the Lord has really provided for you. And I know there are times when it's just very tiring and very exhausting, and just continuing to continue to do the right thing is really hard. It's easy to want to just hide in your bathroom. At least I feel that way. So just really asking the Lord for help and just continuing to do what's right. God, I need your help, and keep moving forward. And then I think too, if you have a friend, phone a friend. That's what I do. Text my friends. So text your friends and say, please pray for me.
So true. Yeah, I think where I sit now and looking back, and if I had counsel or advice to somebody, I think really this would cross over even if you're not a mom, and if life has not dealt you the hand that you wanted at this point. You know, if you're in a place where things haven't quite worked out like you planned, then I think these things still hold true. There are things that you can do now that will make a big difference in the lives of people. And the first is just keep walking with the Lord yourself. Make sure you're growing, being challenged, and your faith is increasing daily. So be sure to walk in faith. And then the second thing is to look around and find out who else is like you that may need encouragement. And seek to encourage them, because when you reach out to somebody to encourage them, the reciprocal thing happens and you actually become encouraged. And then the third thing is look behind you, invest in those behind you. You can help somebody with something that you've already been through. Scripture talks about how we comfort one another with the comfort that we have received. And wherever God has taken you on your journey through life, God has given you opportunities to feel and experience Him. And as you express those to somebody behind you, you become a real encouragement to them. So don't discount your experiences. If you're not a mom, listen, I acquired children almost every way you possibly could. We've got, adopted and fostered and blended and, all the things. And so you don't have to be a traditional mom to be able to have a real impact and change the people and invest in the people around you.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the wonderful things about the kingdom and about having church community is that there are, there are all kinds of aunts and uncles and grandmas and grandpas and even moms and dads that maybe we don't share the same like family bloodline, but because we're together in community, we can still share the same love, and we can encourage and help and walk together. So, ladies, thank you so much for sharing from your experiences, the things that blindsided you, whether they were the challenging ones, the really good ones, and then just some of the lessons and things that you've learned. So thanks for sharing that on this Mother's Day. And thank you for joining us this week. To all the moms out there, again, we want to say Happy Mother's Day. Hope you have a great week, and we hope to see you next week.